If you're okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to Lehigh County Authority Board of Director meeting. Today is Monday, April 27, 2026. The meeting being held in a hybrid fashion, either live or people on Zoom or on the phone call. The material for the meeting was mail and email to the board members, and also it is posted on the website. If you are not receiving the material, please see Lisa on that regard. Before getting to the roll call for the members of the board, we have a new board member. Vijay, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you on board. Would you take a few minutes, just a little bit about your background, so the people from the LCA and the board get to know you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you again. I'm very pleased to be here and honored to be offered this position. Yeah, my name is Vijay Singh. My professional experience is a bit of a mixed bag. I have about 13 years in academia as a finance professor. I taught at University of Pittsburgh and most recently at Lehigh University. And the rest of the time I was in the corporate sector. I have worked in risk management, finance, and operations. In US, I worked at Conagra Foods, at Duke Energy, and at PPL here, which is why we moved to the Lehigh area 23 years ago. And internationally, I worked in Abu Dhabi with a boutique bank called ADS Holding, and an agricultural farming and food processing company called Color Buffett. So it's been a lot. If any questions, I'll be happy to answer, but that's pretty much synopsis.
Thank you, appreciate that, and for sure we're leveraging some of your background in finance for the betterment of the LCA. So welcome aboard. Lisa, would you please the roll call on the board?
Board, Amir Fahmy.
Here.
Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Ted Lyons.
Here.
Linda Rosenfeld. Here. Kevin Baker. Sean Ziller.
Here.
Peter Dent.
Here.
Neil Amin. Here. And Vijay Singh.
Yes.
And we have 8 board members present today. We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. Are you putting the agenda? So any changes to the agenda, any need for the executive sessions?
We have no executive sessions today and no changes to the final agenda. Just wanted to be sure that everyone received the update that was sent out on Friday with the governance meeting.
Thank you. Going to the approval of the meeting from the April 13.
I move that the minutes be approved.
Second. The motion made by Linda and second by Ted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On committee reports.
All right, we do have the draft meeting minutes from the governance committee meeting that was held on April 13th. Those were distributed and the committee will formally adopt the minutes at our next meeting, but call out that they're attached to the Peter, if you have any.
Yeah, just two main things. The committee will, Amir will be forming a finance audit committee. And another key thing is that we will have board members have the opportunity to start to see some of the facilities, starting with the wastewater, and a couple of dates have been sent out. So if you haven't, as a board, if you haven't had a chance to get back to Lisa and Liesel about times that work for you, but so it'll be an opportunity for us to see the operations and see some of the equipment that we talk about, but also a chance to meet some of the staff down in that area there, and interact together as a group a little bit too. So.
Thank you. Any public comment which is not on the agenda?
No, thank you, Amir.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, going to the action item. Under finance and administration, the first one, resolution number 4-2026-1. Destruction of authority document. It's a pink pages, digital board package, page number 9 to 12.
Right, this one is extremely straightforward. We do it at least once a year, sometimes once a year, where we list the documents that are scheduled for instruction based on the Pennsylvania Municipal Records Act, and Schedule A is attached to the resolution showing all the documents that are scheduled for instruction. By the law, we have to approve these by resolutions, and that's why it's in this form.
So seeking approval on the destruction of authority document.
I move that we approve.
Okay, thank you. Motion made by Linda, second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, more paper shredded, it's gone. I'm going, next items on the agenda under water is Allentown Division Water Filtration Plant for PFAS treatment. Yellow pages, digital board package, pages number 13 to 35.
Right, this is an Amy Rohrbach project. Chuck, do you wanna tee it up?
Yep, Amy Rohrbach is going to present this. This is a change order that we're requesting board approval for design phase for additional unforeseen scope items that Amy will go through. The project right now is at least 60% designed. We had our 60% design review meeting. And the city has been a part of this process, and everything is cruising along well. We just have a bunch of unforeseen added scope things that are gonna increase the cost. So with that, turn it over to Amy.
Thank you, Chuck. As you all may recall back in 2024, EPA updated regulations on PFAS. And as a result, we had done a study and evaluated our sources, and the Crystal Spring source was identified to need treatment because the levels were above the MCL under the new regulations. So in December of 2024, we received authorization from the board for design, bidding, and funding assistance for the PFAS treatment of Crystal Spring, and that was awarded to AECom. And as we started plugging through the conceptual design phase, we ran into a lot of questions on where the building would go. So there was a lot of extra effort in identifying the exact location for the building. As you recall, the DNC parking lot is right there, and it's a very tight space. So space constraints, and we're also in the floodplain and traffic flow for DNC. And there was a lot of back and forth. This is the first item on the list of amendment changes, was the additional conceptual engineering, because there was a lot of options looked at by our consultant, and then we ended up having a meeting with the city. And we learned that because the building would be owned by the city, it was exempt from zoning setback requirements. So that expanded our footprint a little bit where we could put the building. So we ended up coming up with a location that I think impacts the DNC parking lot the least, provides the function we need, and will meet everyone's needs down the road. So that was the first item of this additional work. There were some additional scope additions. The design elements, the original proposal assumed that we would be reusing the booster pumps, the Crystal Spring pumps, as our booster pumps for the new system. After further discussion with plant staff, we determined that that was not the best option for us because it restricted our ability to pump Crystal directly into the system rather than going through the high service pumps. So we felt that was going to restrict our flexibility. So we wanted to add new pumps to pump into the new system. So that was additional design effort. There was additional architectural renderings needed for the building to show the city and get their approval of what the building would look like, because we wanted it to blend with the existing water plant. So it'll have similar architectural features, brick facade, similar roof line and materials. Instead of clay, it'll be steel, but it'll look like the clay tile roof. So that was additional effort. Because there was back and forth on those finishes. There was new wash water pumps, because the way the backwash water, spent wash water will discharge. We originally assumed we could reuse the existing pumps that weren't gonna work. So we had to add new pumps. We added at a request of LCA to add dehumidification to the building. The original scope did not include dehumidification, but after some field visits at some other facilities, it was determined that that would probably be a better option for us. So that was an additional item. Then there was additional geotechnical investigation. The initial borings were inconclusive, so we ended up consulting with an outside contractor to do some test pits. And the engineer had to come on site and do observations of those test pits and see what was actually in there. So they could design the footer accordingly. There was additional permitting services. The city of Allentown requested that we do some water quality improvements as part of the Act 167 requirements that weren't originally anticipated, because the project is less than 10,000 square feet of new impervious. But because of looking at the site overall and over the years, it has increased greater than that. The city requested that we do some improvements to address the water quality runoff from our facility, the new facility. So that will include a bioretention basin that will be going in along MLK sidewalk frontage. There was additional, because of the long time it took us to get to the conceptual design, we pushed some of the design elements off into 2026 that were anticipated to be completed in 25. So there's a little bit of a rate escalation for rates going into 26, as well as the procurement. Because of the lead times on the pressure vessels, we decided it would be best to advance procure those, because the EPA regulation timeline we're under. So advanced procurement would involve an additional set of bid specs and bidding services for that. So that was not originally anticipated. And then during the design, conceptual design, we evaluated the existing crystal spring. There's an auxiliary spring chamber that, after further review, determined isn't needed. And that was something that during a fairly recent EPA inspection noted that there is vehicular parking close to the spring chamber. So it is our engineer is recommending that that be removed at some future, not as part of the PFAS project itself, but down the road. So the city had requested that we put together an evaluation memo explaining why why we can and can't remove it, the pros and cons to that. So AECOM will work on that recommendation memo, and all of that together, it's a lot. It's $199,364,000. So we had original authorization for this design was 1 million. Well, with staff hours and contingency, it was 1,244,830. And today we're asking for an additional 199,364 for these additional services.
Any question for him?
Just out of curiosity, so the GAC treatment tanks, like, how many are there that are going in this building? Just trying to get an idea. It seems like it's a pretty big building.
There are 6. It's 3 trains, lead lag vessels.
Okay, and they're fairly large tanks?
Yes.
Just wanted to put in perspective.
Any other question for Amy? I mean, when we started to kick off this project back in, I don't know, last year or sometimes, did we have all the stakeholder in the room? Or I'm just trying to see, I do recognize some of them as you go through the project, there are things will come up. I'm just trying to see, have we missed some of the stakeholder to be upfront in the meeting when we started this project? So we would have avoided some of these changes that we are bringing to the table now.
I don't know that all of this was fully understood at the time until we get further into the design and understand how the facility will operate. So I think this is new to, you know, all of our staff. We don't have a system like this in place currently. So I think some of that was unknown by us. So I don't know that we could have necessarily avoided all of this.
Any other authority that have installed this PFAS removal that we could have gone and see what they have done and learn from their, you know, pluses and minuses.
Well, that's where the dehumidification came into play, because I know, I wasn't along on that field visit, but our operations staff, I know AJ went on that trip. Did you?
I couldn't make that one.
Andrew couldn't make that. So AJ might be able to speak a little bit more to what the lessons learned there were.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, so we thought it'd be worthwhile to see a built facility that's been in operation. It's very similar. Pressure vessels indoors and listen to the, it was Aqua was the operator, the owner of the facility. And for the most part, they're very happy with what they got. We just noticed that there was a lot of corrosion and there was some mold buildup, and we just picked and said, we don't want that. So that's where we came up with dehumidification.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that we're doing benchmarking because, you know, it's always good to learn from the mistake of the others. You know, same thing, because most of the operations are the same, you know, wastewater. So I'm glad that we have done that.
And I'll just add, there was a little negotiation with this. We did cut some requested stuff that we're like, no, that should have been inferred that was included. So this was negotiated down.
Great, thank you, Amy, appreciate that.
Will the GAC, get the PFO and the PFOS down to 4 parts per trillion, then all the other PFOS down to 14, or will they get all down to 4 parts per trillion?
They should be below.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
There's no differentiation between the two
Yes.
measures, that's it. Yeah, okay. And how will you know when the GAC is spent? When it needs to be, when it's, reached its capacity?
Yeah, so basically we have, so a lead vessel and a lag vessel, and we'll be sampling. There's like intermediate sample taps, and it gets exhausted like from the top down. So you'll be able to see where you're at. And there's some good models and tools out there that you can actually predict the breakthrough without taking samples. So we'll be watching that and the benefit of the lead lag is we can make sure that the vessel's completely exhausted and we're using up all the GAC before we regenerate it.
Thank you.
Any other question from the board?
I saw there was some architectural changes made. Is that correct?
We didn't fully vet out exactly what the building would look like right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Conceptual design, until we had discussions with the city and went back and forth on some of the way, the MLK side
Yes.
of the building, that facade, what it would look like in terms of.
So you match the waterworks brick or?
We're trying to, yes.
Good.
But I think it'll look nice. It's
Look.
the renderings we've seen so far have really good look to them and blend nicely.
Thank you.
Okay, seeking capital authorization for water filtration plant for the amount of $199,364.
So moved.
Thank you, Linda.
I'll second it.
Okay. The motion made by Linda, second by Peter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Good.
Thank
Good luck,
you.
Abby. It's a lot of work. Moving to the next item on the agenda. It's the Allentown Division, the lead service line replacement cycle 3 is a purple pages digital board package 36 to 43.
This one, I just want to tee up with a comment. We held it for 2 weeks. We were ready 2 weeks ago, but we held it to see the results of the Penvest funding that
Sure.
came out on April 15th. Very pleased to admit that we got a nice amount of loan and grant funding from Penvest for this project. It's a little less than 50% grant funding, but it's a good amount, almost $7.3 million in grant funding toward this project. So very happy with that result and now ready to get started. And Chuck, do you have comments or we just?
Just one comment. Yeah, this is the third cycle. This is like the second cycle. It's going to be 2 contracts of 500 services each. And that cycle 2 is in construction now. So this is the next one. A lot of this cost relates to test pits to confirm presence of lead service, either public and private side. So with that, I'll turn it over to Anton.
Thanks, Chuck. Anton Siegman, Capital Works Project Manager. So as Chuck said, this project is cycle 3, the third in our lead service line removal program. The goal for this project is to replace the private and public side service lines at 1,000 addresses in the city of Allentown within 5 specific census tracts. Those are 7, 8, 19, 21, and 97. As Liesl mentioned, this is going to be, this represents a change of law and will be funded through Allentown Division. We received a approval of our Penvest application on April 15th for $15.4 million, 7.2 million in grants and 8.1 in low interest loans. For some background of the project, October 2025, CDM Smith was authorized to perform conceptual design and project management services. GFT was also authorized in December of 25 for Penvest application and administrative service. February 2026, we submitted that funding application to Penvest. In March, CDM Smith prepared a proposal for final design and bid phase services, part of which I'm asking for authorization today. And April 15th, we got approval for that funding request through Penvest. For this project, for this approval, we have CDM Smith final design and bid for $700,000 or $707,300. A majority of that cost for this proposal is for potholing, basically investigation to determine the location of lead and service lines to meet the 1,000 address threshold that we're hoping to replace for this project. This project will be doing both public and private side service replacements. The private side is easily investigated by entrance into the basement, inspection at the water meters. The public side is most efficiently investigated by small excavation. In this case, it's going to be a core drilled on either side of the sidewalk, curb valve. We'll be able to visually inspect both the public and confirm the private side. The goal trying to prepare a complete list of replacement addresses when we go to bidding for construction. Cycle 2, alternatively, we had investigation as part of the responsibilities of the construction contractors. And that works in some ways and has different challenges. This project, we're approaching a little bit differently, trying to prepare a complete inventory for replacement prior to getting to construction. Part of CDM's prioritization with the areas within those census tracts is to try to optimize the amount of replacements that we do in circumstance where we're likely to have to repave streets. With a public side replacement, you have excavation in the streets. Those are road openings within certain parameters. There are city ordinance requirements for paving, restoration to be redone. And we want to get as much lead out from underneath the streets that we're gonna have to pay to repave. Separately, we're pursuing some funding to see if we can get some of that paving cost covered. That is currently outside of what Penvest will reimburse us for. Schedule wise, if assuming design and bid authorization at today's meeting, we plan to go to bid in August of 2026 with bid opening in September. Construction phase contracts to be awarded. Actually, there's a slight revision of this schedule. Awarded September with Penvest closing October of 2026.
Thank you. Any question from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. This is for 1,000 lines, is that correct?
Yep.
Where are they located?
So currently, we've decided we're going to search for them within these 5 census tracts in Allentown. We have good inventory to lead us to potential areas. Part of this potholing is to narrow down to specific street blocks to say these addresses have them, they're concentrated, and we're going to replace those.
Are these typically row houses?
It's a mix. Those census tracts were picked for low income, nursing age, mothers, young children, trying to prioritize public health and low income.
So once this is done, documents will be prepared and there'll be a bid.
Mhm.
And so as much detail as you can provide the bidders, the more helpful it is, correct?
Exactly.
This gets complicated in a hurry.
Yeah, we want to, I think for the sake of an efficient construction project, localize the replacements in as tight of an area as possible. For one, just the efficiency of construction, but also that paving impact where if we have to pave a street, we want to make sure we're getting out a lot of lead.
So remind me again, because I forget everything. If you discover there's lead from the main to the curb box, that's ours.
Mhm.
From the curb box to the house is the owner's.
Correct.
And you will tell them that's lead, or you can tell by looking inside, right? You have a
Yeah.
lead line coming in, and then they must replace that, or they,
So within this project, we would be replacing both.
at the same time.
Yeah, from that curb box to the house is owned by the property owner, but LCA and through Penvest's reimbursement would be replacing that for free for no cost to the property owner.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, have you done any of this potholing work yet, or will this be the first time?
For other projects, we have not for this project, excuse me, specifically.
Just was curious.
Any other questions from the board? So just a quick question on this page inside, on the request for board, the numbers that you have is 847,000 and change, but then at the top you have 707. Is that the discrepancy? You did not include the cost for the staff and the contingency?
That's an oversight on my part when I reviewed this material. The front page, the motions and approvals requested should have included the total amount of 847,300.
Mhm.
And then the professional service authorization for CDM Smith, which is 707,300.
So the request today is for 847,300, correct?
That's correct.
So seeking capital expenditure approval for the lead service line replacement cycle 3 for the amount of $840,300. Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Okay, motion been moving on, second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
So now,
I'll just make a comment. So I was telling Chris that they just were doing this in my neighborhood, which is, I would say, a very easy place to work with no curbs or sidewalks and lots of space to park and work. But even there, I saw some interesting things, so it's gonna be a bit of a challenge.
that's the reason I said good luck in the city of Allentown and tight space. Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Moving to the next item underwater is the Sean Spring WFP interconnections is Salmon pages, digital board pages 44 to 46.
Anton's on a roll. He's gonna present this one. This is for pilot testing for water quality improvements to the city's Shant Spring, which is located on Shant's Road, not far from here. So, Anton?
Thank you, Chuck. This project's goal is to optimize Shant Spring for increased protection of public health. We've got some graphics in a little presentation to aid the understanding here. Shant Spring on the left there. Shant Spring is classified as a groundwater source and not required to undergo coagulation treatment or filtration. It is, however, sometimes impacted with turbidity during rain events. The spring takes that route shown to get out to the water filtration plant where it's currently integrated and sent through the distribution system and not currently filtered. For this project, we are continuing work to improve that quality to maintain public health during any rain event. There was a authorization done in March 2026 to begin the conceptual design for the new interconnection at the filtration plant. With this potential coagulation and filtering, it'll just need to be routed into the plant at a different location than it is currently. Right now, it just goes in and then is pumped out through the distribution system. So this pilot testing authorization that GFT is proposing here will continue on a larger scale the bench testing that's currently ongoing. They're determining what coagulant dosing, filter effluent turbidity, head loss, filter run duration, and backwashing effectiveness. That pilot, the pilot test that we'll be authorizing today will influence the final design for the full-scale testing or the full-scale filtration that'll be installed. On the screen there, we've just got a aerial shot of Shunt Spring currently, collection area, spring box. In the facilities over there is a reservoir. Part of this authorization will also determine the location for whatever treatment, whether that be at the Shunt Spring site or at the water filtration plant. This illustrates the treatment process that will likely be implemented. This graphic here shows the correlation of turbidity when there are rain events.
What is turbidity?
It's a measure of, it's an optical parameter. It's just a measure of cloudiness.
It's optical.
Yeah, it doesn't specify what is in the water, just that it is unclear. Sure. These are potential connection points on the left side of your screen. In parallel, that conceptual design of the interconnection is currently ongoing, also with GFT. Today's authorization is just for the pilot scale filtration. There's a lot of pipes in the ground along the areas outside of filtration. So that's what we're working on now, determining where we can get shots integrated into the filter system, ideally in a way that it mixes thoroughly with source water that's already being filtered. So filters don't have uneven distribution for what they need to do as far as the filtration of the source. Within this pilot authorization as well is the equipment for the study to happen. LCA staff is actually going to be performing the study itself. We're going to be installing the interconnection to get shots to the pilot testing. Tests themselves will be 3 2-week long legs that LCA will perform. You can see the LCA staff time for this authorization of $40,000 is largely for that expense to perform the test itself. As a little bit more background, we did have a environmental study for Corona Environmental Consulting submitted a treatment evaluation. Not sure the date on that, relatively recently, within the last couple years, that's kind of informed this filtration investigation. So, yeah, for these professional services to be authorized, project coordination, planning, pilot test protocol, the pilot test equipment, the testing itself, and then the data review and reporting, assuming authorization of the planning phase work at this meeting. Expect to begin May 2026 with completion of that testing in October of 2026 and a final report submitted for December 2026.
Any question from the, go ahead.
Just want to offer one clarification on the paperwork again.
Okay,
The total capital project authorization amount, or the total amount that we're authorizing is the 234,800, but the professional services authorization is shown on the second sheet of 184,800.
thank you for clarification.
How big a line runs from Sean Springs to the waterworks?
I think, is that a 30-inch?
I believe it's 30.
30-inch
Yeah,
line.
and it flows by gravity.
I see that, it's a gravity flow.
I believe 7 million gallons per day. That's what John's line.
Right around seven.
7.
Yeah. Cool. How long's it been in?
I played with it back in 2017 and found a date stamp of 1898 on it.
That was to repeat the whole section.
It's old.
Has it been replaced?
We did some,
Sections of it, right?
yeah, we did sections of it back in 2017. Very interesting piece of play.
Yeah, it runs down the parkway there through Cedar Beach.
Cedar Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty neat. Thank you.
I have a question. Is this, filtration in any way needed or related to PFAS treatment? Like is Sean's, like the current quality of the water from the Sean Spring as is could go into the new PFAS system? They're not interrelated at all?
It's potentially it's gonna go into the filters, but it doesn't have to go through the PFAS.
No.
treatment train.
Oh, I thought.
It's below the MCO.
What's that?
The current testing on shots is below the MCS, so it does not require.
Oh, I misunderstood what you said. I thought the Sean Spring needed PFAS treatment.
Crystal.
Crystal.
Thank you.
Others.
Last question.
Any other, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have this maybe a silly question, but it's general nature. When you say LCA staff time of 40,000, is this a incremental expense or just an allocation issue?
It's an allocation of our team's expense to the project so that
But
we're
it's not an actual cash.
correct. I mean, we pay our employees, so it,
Essentially, it is a cash cost,
But it's already been incurred.
but it's out of payroll. And it's as a result of the time that they actually spend on the project on a dedicated basis. It includes, labor, fringe benefits, all of that would be
But
allocated.
This is already budgeted.
Yes.
for the year.
Yeah,
it's not new staff,
Yeah.
it's existing staff.
This is not actually a cash requirement, that's big. It's more like a budgetary allocation.
Yeah.
So when you have these, again, I'm very new here. I assume there's a lots of projects, right? How do these get picked? I mean, some of these are like EPA required and regulatory, right? So is that a priority? Is there a criterion? It's really just a question, if we can.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, we have a process every year. We go through a capital planning process. And we evaluate all the needs and we score projects on the basis of things like you're talking about, the age, the condition, regulatory requirements. Some are lease requirements that we must do for the lease. So all of that gets kind of factored in and we look at how much it's going to cost. And we try to make good decisions on how much we're going to do in a given year. So like the PFAS project that Amy talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's a requirement.
The lead one that Anton talked about, that's a requirement. This one is public health related, so anything that,
Some understanding of benefits, right? Although you can't quantify.
yeah, we tend to score things that have public health the highest. So something that has a direct public health benefit for without it could have a public health detriment. We prioritize those.
Any other questions? So how do you incorporate the seasonal variability and the turbidity in your testing? Are you going to spike the water to get to that turbidity? Because that has to be, part of your design and a pilot experiment, right?
I think the way I understand it, I think we're going to be looking for some rain events to discuss to perform some of the testing. But this will also, I don't know, honestly, the specifics, if we're going to artificially introduce turbidity as a way to test the capacity, of the filter, that I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in. Just
Sure.
we have it's a good question. It comes down to, how much money do you want to spend on pilot testing? How valuable is the additional testing? We've picked these 3 2-week periods where we want to get elevated turbidity levels. And the thought is that the elevated turbidity levels that we see in The summer, for example, would be similar to turbidity levels. Same stuff would be in the water in, say, a different season. The temperature is going to be different, but based on the testing protocol we've come up with, we don't think it makes that much of a difference. And we can rely on the results from like one season for the whole year.
You measure turbidity, so you know what it is, so if you have a, bucket of water, I'm just using an example, right? That it is close to that number, it give you the highs and lows for you, correct?
We know what his season, we know what historically has been the rain. We'd like to get a rain event during this period that we can match what would be our worst case, but even if we don't get the highest peak, we believe it'll be representative to enable us to do full scale.
How long does it take for a rain event to show up at turbidity at Shot Springs?
It's relatively quickly.
Yeah, it's relatively quick. So we do have turbidity readings directly at the spring. So as it's coming from the collection field, which you saw earlier, and it's going into the reservoir there, we do have readings right there.
So the
And it
turbidity
does-
is a result of the collection field or the let's call it the underground river that dumps into it. That comes from everywhere, right?
Correct. So where exactly the turbidity rise is coming from is
Who cares?
somewhat unknown.
Yeah.
Just the fact that it happened
It happened.
is the concern.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeking capital expenditure approval for Sean Spring WFP interconnections for water filtration for the amount of $234,800. Okay. Good. The motion made by Peter, second by Linda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you got the order. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to note that Bushman had to step away from the meeting, so we're down to 7. We're still a quorum.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. We have standing items on the BTP. Anything?
Yes, I don't have, for the industrial pretreatment plant, I don't have anything very specific to offer today. Other than, you all should have received an email invitation from me to attend a tour of the pretreatment plant. That actually is being organized by Taylor for some of our friends at the county of Lehigh who would like to see the facility that they're going to invest in. And so if you're available for that tour at 1 o'clock on June 4th, it would be a nice opportunity for you to meet some of the county folks at that time. And then I think they're also gonna take a trip down to Klein's Island later that same afternoon. And then we have a second tour opportunity on June 11th in the evening. So for those who need schedule. But I wanted to call out the June 4th event at the pretreatment plant because our county folks will be there and it's part of their hope to understand more about the facility and the needs there that they have voted to approve investing in. On the other side, municipal side with the township, Upper Runtungi Township, we continue to have very detailed conversations with the township engineer and the township staff trying to develop an understanding of how this project will move forward. I don't have anything further to share with you about that today.
Thank you, so appreciate that. Moving on, next item on the agenda, sanitary sewer collection system, City of Allentown, manhole rehab, as a green pages, digital package, board package, page 47 to 54.
Okay, thank you, Liesl. Jason's gonna present this one. This is the second year of a city manhole rehabilitation program, driven by the Act 537 plan. And this cycle it focuses on 425 manholes to be rehabbed. And Jason's going to talk about the rehabilitation methods and techniques.
Thank you, Mayor, and the rest of the board. As Chuck mentioned, giving you a little bit of background here, part of the Act 537 planning, all the sanitary sewer manholes in the city of Allentown are to be inspected over a 10-year period. This is year 2. The first year, which was a pilot program, this one here is going to learn off of those lessons and give you a more direct approach for this phase of or I should say, this cycle of the program. Part of that is we are inspecting manholes currently. We've inspected just a little over 4,000 out of the 7,200 manholes approximately in the city system. A little bit of project overview based upon the evaluations of the city manhole rehab cycle 1 methods and continued manhole inspection efforts by Arcadis, our design engineer. The cycle 2 project scope was developed. This year's manhole rehabilitation project identified the need to rehabilitate approximately 425 manholes throughout the following city drainage basins, which include Industrial, Tioga, and Juniata. These efforts will be partially accomplished via the contracted general construction, which I'm going to ask for you today, which is for 78 manhole rehabs. The balance of that will be conducted by the field service department, which is roughly 347 manholes, requiring non-structural O&M related work. So this particular, what I'm asking you guys for approval today is more structural. So dig up, rehab work, reset of some frames and covers, installation of newer ones. Contractor will be going out there with machinery, cutting a nice big hole right around the manhole, circular hole, lifting out the framing cover, fixing the bedding in the top of the cone, because a lot of these structures, the streets have been overlaid for so many years. There's a lot of adjustment grade rings in there, which are allowing a lot of the sheet flow storm water from the surface. Some of the manholes themselves, the frames and covers are the old style stuff. They got 4 holes in the top, clear through pick holes, all of that, which allows stormwater inflow into the system. So we're going to tackle a lot of those with actual removal. If they're in good working order, we'll reset them. If not, we are full on replacing them. So the project itself was advertised for bid on March 18th. March 6th with a mandatory pre-bid on March 18th. We had 6 contractors attend the mandatory pre-bid. Out of those 6, 2 actually bid. Bids were open on April 3rd. We had 2 bidders, Environmental Service Corporation. They came with a bid of $381,280. And then the second lowest bidder, which was Triangle Contracting, came in at $680,600. Triangle actually was the awarded contractor in cycle 1. There is quite a discrepancy there. If we take the numbers and look at it, I'm gonna beat you to the punch, Ted, because you always ask me on these numbers. I'll beat you to the punch here. If you start to really look at it and you break it down by unit price, you're right around $5,000, $4,900 a structure. Materials alone, we're right around half of that. You have a lot of restoration, mobilization costs. The pricing of fueling nowadays at $6 a gallon for diesel really starts that up. It sniffs very well. Our engineer's estimate was right in between these 2 guys. That engineer's estimate was based upon the pilot program that we had last year. So it's a good value. Environmental Service Corps, they're out of Scranton. They do a lot of manhole rehab work. Right now, they're actually working over in the borough of Emmaus. So they're right here. I think the value is a really good price. So, but I'm coming today for you guys to authorize the capital project authorization for the construction phase for a total of $571,280. Part of that capital project authorization is the general construction contract for $381,280 and a professional service authorization to Arcadis for construction engineering, management, and field inspection, which will also be GPS work too, for $140,000. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to
Any
answer.
question for Jason?
Just out of curiosity, more than anything, so there's like 8 different manhole repairs. So you have a list, each manhole is getting, manhole A is getting 8 manholes, B is getting 5 of these, like, how's that all laid out so the contractor knows exactly what he's doing?
So that's the full scope, and some of that scope is spread out amongst the let's call it O&M work, but then there's also the full-on rehab work. And some of that rehab work It is specific manhole by manhole, how it's worked out from our engineering side of the team. So when they go to a manhole, they know which one's gonna be a pull out
Right.
and
that's
a
what I was getting
reset, and, you know, might need, we're gonna do a rapid seal on the outside or a chimney seal. We're gonna seal that and do some bedding. If there's any other little nuances that are going to take place in regards to, an IPD dash, you know, gasketed IPD dash, are we gonna install a frame cover with a gasket on? Those are all identified for each of those manholes.
Okay, so there was a lot of detail put into
Yes.
the bids and everything, so they know exactly.
Yeah.
So given, so I can beat the dead horse again.
Go ahead.
So given all that detail the contractor has, how do you explain the huge differential in the two bids?
The triangle's from Maryland, so
I understand that, but trust me, that doesn't add up to $300,000. Plus, he said he did the other one.
they did, and the pilot program was a lot different.
I think they were the only bidder last time too, so I think they just padded there.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, yeah,
think
that's
so.
not a real number.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Really?
We're doing budget, we're doing budget for the first one?
What was
We're
that?
doing budget.
Yes,
Did the finish on budget?
yes.
Any other questions? Just go ahead. What says?
I'm doing my QC on the paperwork again on this one. We do have just a minor error for clarification. On the form itself, under the current authorization, it references cycle 9 and 10. That's a holdover from a prior project. It's cycle 2. And to anticipate maybe another question, the staff time that's shown here of the $10,000 is just to administer this construction work. It's not the staff time that Chris and his group will put into all of the other manhole work that we authorized separately.
Just help me out. When we go into the budgeting process, we were going to hire some people to bring work inside. Was this type of project or is it a different one?
It is this project. If you see the paragraph on the top of page 2, where we talked about 425 manholes. This project is only addressing 78 of them, and Chris and his team are gonna address the other 325 that need more just O&M type work. And he's working on, or has completed hiring the team.
We've completed hiring and we started our portion of the project already.
Great.
So the staff time for those people doing the work on the 325 manholes is not included here. That's a separate thing.
And as far as the accounting, building on Vijay's questions, so these are part of the capital cost, right, for this project? I do recognize the salary is paid, but do we somehow, in our accounting, we consider that as a part of the capital cost for the project? Or?
Yes, when we do the budget, you're gonna have two buckets. You're gonna have the cost of labor and everything else for the operating side of the business, and the cost of labor and stuff that we are embedding into project costs for the capital budget.
Okay, seeking approval for the sanitary sewer collection system, City of Allentown manhole rehab for the amount of $571,280.
So.
Second.
The motion is by Jeff, second by Minal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you, Marty.
Moving to next item on the agenda under wastewater. It is the Allentown Kleins Island nitration study. It's the Blue Pages digital board package, page 55 to 68.
Do you want to see this up or?
Yeah, we are moving forward with work at the Kleins Island wastewater treatment plant, and we're looking at doing a nitrification study, stress testing there, and Steve's gonna tell us all about it.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you for accommodating me remotely. I am a little bit under the weather today, so you did not want me in the room. But yes, this is another study. This is the third in a series of studies that you've been authorizing for me, which we thank you for. This is the nitrification stress testing study that we want to perform at Klein's Island. It was recommended that we pursue this in the immediate term as part of our 2024 master plan update for Klein's Island. I mentioned this is the third in a series. They're all sort of related to answer or to help us understand what we need to do for increased organic loadings, which we know are going to be occurring in some form as a result of changes to the industrial pretreatment plant, as well as just general growth in the region. So we want to prepare Klein's Island appropriately, and in order to do that, we need to plan appropriately. So first study was SEPT, chemically enhanced primary treatment. That's something that has been going on since late last year. We started running the trial. That's taking chemicals and injecting them into the primary clarification system to enhance the removal of organic loadings. That's working well, and the purpose of that is for protection of the secondary treatment process, which I'm going to speak to a lot more in this study. The second is the solids handling master plan study that you authorized in early March. So as a result of the increased loadings that were anticipated, some of those are going to settle out, and we need to know what to do with our solids management systems and how we need to upgrade them to accommodate those additional solids. The third thing, and I mentioned this, is that's the protection of the downstream secondary treatment processes. So that's where this comes in. The nitrification is relying on microbes that take toxic ammonia and convert them into nitrate, which is less toxic, and then that becomes part of the nitrogen cycle. We're mainly doing this in fact, we're almost exclusively doing this in our trickling filters. So Klein's Island is a 2-stage trickling filter plant. It's a big biologic organism. So we have the original rock filters from the 1920s, and in the 70s, when regional growth, we needed more capacity and more treatment capacity. We introduced the plastic trickling filters as well, and that greatly increased the ability of the biological processes to convert that ammonia into nitrate. So I'm talking about ammonia. That's mainly the focus of this study. So we have seasonal limitations on what we're allowed to discharge from the plant into the Lehigh River. Excuse me. In the summertime, it's 5 milligrams per liter. And in the wintertime, it's more relaxed. It's 15 milligrams per liter of effluent ammonia. And that's because the cold temperatures, the microbes are not as active. So they're not performing as well as they do in the warmer months. So what we don't know, we know on paper what the design organic capacity is. The textbook, we have lots of data over the years that indicate that the plant performs, like it should in a textbook, but it's never really been strained in any kind of sustained fashion. So what the stress testing will do is, and we're going to design this with our engineer to make sure there's a lot of factors. So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but the crux of it is that we'll remove 1 or 2 of the plastic media filters, take them offline in the winter when it's colder and we have the higher effluent allowance. So it's safer to do it then, and simulate sustained higher loadings on the remaining filters, so that we can then take that data and update the model, which has already been prepared by our consultant in the past, and really hone that to understand what is the organic capacity of the plant under these higher loadings. In the immediate future, we're not anticipating loadings that exceed the permitted capacity of 70,000 pounds per day. But that can vary, and we want to do this study so that we know what our threshold really is, and this is really the best way to do it, to simulate it rather than waiting for nature to do it, because we just, again, other than early 2000s, 2003, we really haven't had conditions in a sustained way that we could be experiencing in the future. So we requested a proposal from AECOM. AECOM's perfectly suited for this. They designed our SEPT study that we're just wrapping up now. They prepared the GPS X model, which is going to feature prominently in this. It will be the model that they update based on the data we retrieve from the stress testing. And the numbers are professional service authorization for the engineer of $178,290 with a total capital project authorization of $228,290, and that accounts for staff time and contingency. This will be fairly hands-on for our staff during the duration of the study. The schedule is again, I mentioned, so we're going to start collecting data this summer for baselining. The actual stress testing I mentioned, we're going to wait until the colder months when we have the higher allowable effluent limitation on ammonia. And then the post-processing, evaluating the reestablishment of the plastic filters that do come offline once we bring them back online to make sure that the biological treatment is restored. And so basically a year from today for the bulk of the study. So that's my overview, and I'll stop there and take any questions.
Any question from the board member?
Yeah, I didn't see any references in here to the 537 plan. Do these data help with regard to where we end up with as we meet as we implement the 537 plan, or is there any relationship to it at all?
100% yes.
There is. Phil, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, again, we're talking about some 5 minutes to the liquid side. This is on the solid side, and that's where we're pivoting to on the solid side. Yes, so it's all related to the plant.
The capacity, you need to know the plant capacity there to be able to
Yeah, right. Yep.
figure out what you need with the loads and everything.
Any other questions from the board? So does the packing age and shape, or whatever you want to call them, configuration impact the BOD removal?
Are you talking about the plastic media?
Yes.
We just replaced on one of the 4?
Because we replaced one of them recently, correct? So this goes through a trickling right media, is that correct? If I'm not mistaken? So the age, these are all new, right? So
We
then,
just replaced
Only
one.
one.
okay, so when we're gonna test, we're gonna take the older one, or we're gonna take the new one and sample? And because it's gonna impact the way your data is gonna show, right?
I don't know that the capacity really has changed because we replace media in kind. So I don't know that we experienced a performance improvement with the new media. In fact, it takes a while to get that slime
Sure.
layer, that bacteria layer build up on the many surfaces of the maze of that plastic media. But I don't think that the new media will make much of a difference.
Yeah, we're really not expecting to see much improvement from the new media. It's more or less with the old media, there's potential for collapsed parts or ponding in areas where you can't necessarily access and clean. So there may be improvements from removal of that. But from an overall standpoint, I don't think we're expecting to see a great impact.
Okay. Okay. Seeking approval for the Klein's Island wastewater treatment plant nitrification study. The CE amount of $228,290.
Move.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Second.
Okay, the motion made by Peter, seconded by Linda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you got the order.
Thank you all.
Feel better?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I think next items is the Klein Island Sewer System Act 537 plan. Just for the informations, there are the white pages pages 69 to 79.
All right, so we haven't talked about the Act 537 plan in a little while. And we have a couple new board members, so it's a perfect time to give a little bit of an overview. We'll go through it pretty quickly. But then give you the more recent updates that we want to share with you. So let me share my screen to go through slides, and Phil and I will tag team this one as we normally do. Kleins Island Sewer System Regional Sewer Plan is exactly what it implies. It's a plan that affects the whole region that flows to the Kleins Island wastewater treatment plant in Allentown. And this facility, the treatment plant and the system itself is approaching 100 years old. The plant itself was built in the 1920s and expanded at various times throughout then. The collection system, the interceptors, primarily built through the 1980s. And we've reached a point in time where we need to reinvest, and that is the entire purpose of the Act 537 plan, or the sewage facility plan. So this has been a lengthy, detailed process. Many of you have heard about it at many meetings, but wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the system, especially since we have a couple of board members. There are 15 municipalities in Lehigh County that are part of the Kleins Island Sewer System Service Area. We call it KISS for short. And they're shown here on the page more graphically on a map, which I prefer. This is what the system looks like. And you can see it's a pretty big system, serves about 270,000 people in the region. And we treat on average about 32 million gallons of wastewater per day coming from each of those 15 municipalities. So in context for LCA, we own and operate the LCA pretreatment plant and the interceptors that run through Western Lehigh County. But the municipalities generally throughout the system, own and operate their own collection system, shown in the yellow. And then in Allentown, we're operating the Kleins Island wastewater treatment plant and the city's collection system under the terms of the 50-year lease agreement. So all total, about 1,000 miles of pipe, and some of which are 100 years old. When we embarked upon this regional plan, we were aiming to solve a few different challenges that we face and continue to face, aging infrastructure being kind of a root cause of many of our challenges. That is creating situations where we have leakage into the system, and that creates capacity issues because the leakage is taking up capacity in the pipe. We also have situations, since the pipes were put in the ground, especially the large interceptors in the 70s and 80s, they were sized for approximately 30 or 40 years worth of growth. Now almost 50 years have gone by. And so the size of the existing infrastructure is a constraint in some areas of the system. That has created a situation where we have constraints potentially on new connections. This is a growing system, and so that's a critically important problem to solve. And because of the overflows and various environmental challenges, our state DEP has taken a keen interest in seeing that this problem is solved. So that's kind of the background. And Phil, you want to talk about I&I and get into some of the details of the plan itself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so just to refresh your inflow, when we refer to that, we typically refer to rainwater coming in from the top of a manhole or an illegal connection. And infiltration, that's usually a leaky pipe coming in from the groundwater. So our system has both of these problems, not everywhere, not all the time, but when the right situation happens, we have what shows on the screen. Again, Lisa has 160 million gallons on there. That's like the worst case scenario. But again, we can't even get that there because of the piping constraints. So if we can't get it there, it's going to come out of the manholes upstream. That's what it does. So this is a graph that shows the 12-month rolling average of flow at Kleins Island versus precipitation. And I just want to
focus your attention on August of 18. That's when the recent situation started and it stopped in July 19. However, in that period, we violated a number on our permit that DEP noticed, of course, right away. And so technically, it's called a Chapter 94 violation. And we violated, if you violate your hydraulic number 3 months in a row, it's an automatic violation. We did that twice. You can't really see it on that screen, but we did it twice. So we violated Chapter 94, which that means an automatic DEP steps in, which we'll see in the next screen. So before we get to what happened in 19 and 18, just want to remind everyone that this technically all started in 2007. EPA was involved for sanitary sewer overflows, SSOs in the system. They issued 2 administrative orders, one at the plant and one in the collection systems. So in the 2010s, there was a lot of collaboration. Lisa was involved with all that. I was kind of on the outside there. So we made it through we made it to 2019 or actually we made it to 2018, right when the rain started. So we submitted the EPA response in 2018. The rain started. EPA stepped away in March of 19. And they basically gave the keys back to DEP. And then we heard from DEP in August of 19. So DEP has not left us alone since August of 19. In order to get connections in 2020, we had to submit, what we wanted, and they granted that. And we did the same thing in 2021. We asked for the next 5 years of connections, which they granted, all with the intent of DEP must have this 537 plan in 2025, which we gave them in October 25. So, we started this in 2020, right before COVID started. We laid this all out. Then of course, COVID happened, but we were full steam ahead. And, again, the reason why we got in trouble with DEP was because of that Chapter 94 violation, which meant our system is highly influenced by groundwater. So the more it rains, the infiltration piece bit us. That's why the flows were sustained over those 8, 9, 10 months. So, in DEP's eyes, you got in problem because of I&I, your solution is get rid of the I&I. Of course, when we did all the looking, there were other problems that we identified. With the PTP, we looked at all kind of different scenarios about what to do with that facility. And to be honest, a lot of that was done in the 2010s during the AO time period. So we reviewed all that. And the conclusion was, what we're doing right now is just to rehab the existing one. So then we put that aside. And then the main issue was with Klein's Island in the conveyance system. And, there's various pinch points in the conveyance system that cause problems when it rains. But, pinch points are different than I&I. So again, I&I, we're in trouble because of I&I. So in order to get out of trouble, we need to get rid of the I&I. And so but again, we've identified all the pinch points. We have solutions for them. We did not include them with the final package with DEP. DEP knows about the other problems. So as Lisa shows on the screen there, this was the last iteration of the cost estimates. And so all the relief interceptors were removed from the plan as shown. So they're 0. The SRPs, the sewer rehab programs, again, that's all driven by the owner of the system. So the municipalities have to come up with their own SRPs, implement them. That was the rough cost estimate from all 15 municipalities. Klein's Island costs, those are just right from our capital plan, which includes, the big, Amy's big 100 MGD project. So that's where that cost goes. And then we usually have about $1.5 million on the Western Lehigh annually. So we've added all the costs up, the next 5 years, that's what our rough estimate is, around $130 million. Again, half of that's going to be I&I reduction.
Quick question. That does not include the municipalities' amount of money they have to throw into this deal, right?
And that's just say municipality X, they want to spend $500,000.
Just out of curiosity, if you threw all that together.
That would be a lot more than that.
I know that. Do you have any conception of how much
This does include the municipalities' estimates of their sewer
Oh,
rehab.
it does.
It does, yes, that first line, the 55 to 60 million,
Okay, so that's everything.
that's everything over the next 5 years.
Their guesstimate.
Yes, their estimate. and
Okay, so this is a grand total, hopefully.
Yeah, again, just that top line was just to reduce I and I there in everyone's.
It's just the I and I.
For
Okay,
the next
thank
5
you.
years, yeah.
Thanks.
And this screen just shows you that, this is very regimented by DEP. You have to follow these exact steps in the exact order or they don't approve the plan. So, that's almost been over a year ago. We started this process, giving it to the planning commissions, and then it takes about 6 months to get through that. So we gave it to them, October 7th of last year. And just, I think this is my last piece here. So we made 7 commitments in this plan. The first commitment again was to repeat the flow study we did. We did a massive flow study in 2021. So we're gonna redo that flow study in 2030. Hopefully to show all the progress we've made with the I reduction. The second commitment we made was negotiating new intermunicipal agreements. Possible is the key word. That is physically stated in the commitment where possible, because it's gonna be quite the lift to change the agreements, but it's a commitment we made, so we must show progress on that. Again, I and I reduction, we talked about that, we have to do I and I pretty much indefinitely. We're gonna report we're gonna report to DEP our progress on the I and I reduction. Kind of leaving it open-ended, how we report that. Lisa will explain shortly. They are expecting a report October 27th. So that's our near-term target. It's about 18 months from now. Sewer billing meters, again, the signatories to the city back in the 80s, they all have some meters into the city. And right now it's manual in nature. The data is all emailed and it's very outdated. So we want to get a centralized spot where everyone can see it read only. So, we're not waiting for the lag time to get the information. So that's a commitment we made. I talked about Amy's pump upgrades at the head of the plant. That was one of the commitments we made. And then again, we heard this loud and clear from DEP that just because we gave them this 537, they're not going to go away. So they want to continue to monitor our progress, which means that they're going to monitor our connections. And Lisa's going to get into more details about what that looks like.
Sure.
You wanna go on?
Yeah, you can do this, but yeah, sure.
So again, the DP has, we've established a great relationship with DP. And they gave us a bucket of allocations in 2020. They gave another bucket in 2021. Now they gave another one a month ago. Which basically is saying that the region here, you have allocations to use at your discretion. But every time someone wants to connect to the system, they're requiring a planning module, which requires a municipal resolution. So they're forcing me to account for every single connection, new connection. And they require every quarter to get a report, but basically shows you the balance of the connection. And that's going to continue for the next 5 years at least. And again, that's been since 2020. So you basically a whole decade of this scrutiny for new connections is what's going to turn out to be. And again, DP total, they granted the entire region total about 4.6 million gallons. If you add up to that 2020 and that 2021 allocation. So they gave us 4.6. And 5 years later, we ended up using about 2.6. So, they were a little aggressive with their planning, the municipalities were, but, so there's 2 million gallons left in the bucket. We did this, again, the planning commissions provided the numbers. So we've always just separated each municipality accordingly, and we just deducted from their total number, and then every time you get a new one, you start deducting. That's what I've been doing over the past 5 years. DP only cares about the bottom number. So they're leaving it to us to resolve our differences for the numbers above. As you can see, some of them want growth, some don't have growth available because of the constraints by this balance. But I think this is a good segue for Liesl to say what happened about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I mean, this slide I think is important because it represents how we've been doing things the last 6 years, and now we're changing focus because on April 3rd, the DEP approved the KISS Act 537 plan, and it was a fairly short, succinct letter that you all have a copy of in your packet that says your plan is approved with a couple of things attached. So wanted to go over those things, but just take a moment to recognize the efforts of this organization and all the municipalities under Phil's leadership to get us to this point where we have an approved regional sewer plan, first of its kind. So congratulations, Phil.
Yeah, I would just add two things. One, getting the work on the agreements to be done as part of the plan, not as part of the plan submission, but afterwards was a great move to get this done. And congratulations on not getting a 30-page comment letter and only a 3-page comment letter. That's very impressive. So.
Yeah, it's all about the DP relationship.
Yeah.
They trust us, we trust them, so.
Thank you. So I do want to just share a little bit about the DEP's approval letter. We have had, as Phil mentioned, the benefit of a good relationship with DEP. So we kind of had a sense of where this was going in advance of receiving the letter. But essentially, DEP is saying that the 7 commitments that Phil just ran through kind of briefly, those must be implemented. We said we would do them. DEP is acknowledging that we will do them. Also included in the plan was a projection of an additional 3.8 million gallons per day of new connections that each of the 15 municipalities gave to us as their projection. And DEP is saying those future connections can be approved under the terms of an ongoing connection management plan. So the connection management plan that Phil discussed or reviewed will continue in a slightly different form moving forward. The 3.8 million gallons per day will be given to the KISS system in stages. And so they're going to, or they have given us as part of this letter, the first 1 million gallons per day. So our bucket just increased from 2 million up to 3 million by virtue of getting this letter from DEP. And then there's a couple checkpoints along the way. First is the submission of our update report to DEP on our progress on I&I projects. That's due October 4th, 2027. An additional 2 million gallons per day will be provided by DEP when we complete that. And then the sewage billing meter program that Phil described is another checkpoint when we can report to DEP that work is done. They'll grant the last 0.8 million gallons per day. So all in all, we say what we're going to do, DEP is going to work with us. That's kind of a key message, I think, that we got from the letter. We'll do the continued quarterly reporting that we're already doing. There are a couple other key items that they called out more specifically that I thought were worth highlighting. They say this plan is approved with the following comments, and these are the 3 comments. First is that the Kleins Island wastewater treatment plant has a hydraulic rating, and then it has its permit for organic loading. The base permit is for 40 million gallons per day and the 70,000 pounds per day of BOD that we were talking about with Steve's nitrification study. The hydraulic rating is what the plant can do for some sustained period of time and meet its permit, essentially during wet weather events. And so during the 2020-2021 period, we received a re-rate from 40 million gallons per day up to 44.6 million gallons per day for that hydraulic capacity. And DEP is just acknowledging that with the 3.8 million gallons per day on top, that we will want to do a re-rate again to 48.4 million gallons per day, but that's subject to a water quality management part 2 permit. So it's a process that we have to go through to get that re-rating. I put this in quotes because I think it bears repeating. The second one, the department encourages continued regional discussions for collaborative system-wide based solutions. And that is something that LCA has been saying for this whole planning period. We've been banging that drum. We believe that there are opportunities for regional approaches for I&I work, for loading management and many other things that would make the system more efficient and effective. And the municipalities have been willing to talk to us about some of them. And DEP is just putting on paper in black and white that they would want to see us continue to have those conversations. And then the last one is their requirement that we provide this report on our I&I work by October 4th, 2027. So all in all, a pretty reasonable response from DEP. So what you have in your packet is you have a copy of the DEP letter as well as a copy of a memo that that we prepared for the municipalities, for the 15 municipalities, just to outline some of our next steps. And I thought it would be worth going through a couple of those together. We also reviewed these in-person meeting with the KISS municipalities on April 9th. So they were part of the discussion to create this game plan. There's a couple items that I say are easier to implement. Certainly a permit application for a hydraulic re-rate is an engineering function that we can manage and proceed with. No problem. The KISS group of municipalities are forming a couple of subcommittees to help us attack a few of these key items. So Phil is going to head up the KISS subcommittee on the sewage billing meter program and get that program up and running. Our senior planning engineer, Charlie Myers, is going to head up I&I program subcommittee and have the communities work together on tracking progress on their I&I projects. And then we have some anticipated cadence for ongoing meetings with the group we're talking about, as well as the facility tours that I mentioned here. So I think all three of those are fairly straightforward, easier things to do. And then we have some more challenging items. There's 3 of them as well. First relates to the intermunicipal agreements, and this will be a very challenging process to get through. We've done a lot of work already with developing what we call a term sheet. A term sheet is essentially a listing of topics and concepts that we agree will be part of the negotiation in the future. It's not a commitment to agree on those things. It's just a listing of things we're going to negotiate around. That was included in the 537 plan that was submitted to DEP. So we'll start there with those items and focus on updating things like our billing methodology and cost sharing, trying to remove some of the complexity of our system, trying to update the terms of the agreement to match current regulations and current system components or operations. And the big question is, can we come up with a way to do things in the future that all 15 municipalities will be able to agree on and vote on by their elected officials? That will make it a challenging process, but we're going to do our best. The second item that will be challenging relates to a regional surcharge program. There is a subcommittee. Andrew Moore's got the ball on this one. This one I put in the challenging side though, because there's just a lot to developing a surcharge program. Surcharge program is a program where industrial users or commercial users that are discharging higher strength waste receive an additional fee or surcharge on their bill for the cost of treating that high strength waste. We currently do not have a program, but it is a best practice in our industry. There's lots of utilities that have surcharge programs that we can learn from. It's just complicated to put together when you're starting kind of from scratch. This is really important also because the pretreatment plant upgrade project has really shown a spotlight on the constraints that our system has related to loading. And so what happens with the pretreatment plant upgrade project will necessarily change the amount of loading going to Klein's Island, and that may change the costs that get baked into a surcharge program. So there's a lot of tentacles to this one that we need to work out, and it's tied to that pretreatment plant upgrade project. And then last but not least, the connection management plan. As I mentioned, the first 1 million gallons per day of new allocation has been granted to us. However, DEP has indicated in their letter, and the group itself had a discussion that we're going to manage this new bucket of allocation regionally rather than municipality by municipality. So that makes things a little easier for deciding if we can approve a new connection, but it might make Phil's tracking process a little more complicated because he's got all, different kinds of allocation.
So a quick question. When you say prove a new connection, give us an example of that. Would that be like a housing development or an industrial plant coming in or?
It's any new connection to the system. So, a townhouse with, building with 3 units might need 3 EDUs, that counts. And that has to be subtracted from
De minimis here that,
There is one small caveat. Is it under 400?
Yeah, there's a couple of nuances. They're called no planning required, but they're few and far between. They're very, very, very small.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're taking that, bucket of new allocation that DEP has granted us by municipality, and then this new bucket of the 1 million gallons, and subtracting the new connections from it to keep track of what we have left. So it's not popular. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. The municipalities would love to get rid of this process because the sewage planning module process by itself creates a significant burden to the townships and boroughs and the city to go through the approval process, and it's just one thing for planning process to do it. If we weren't under a connection management plan, there is a more streamlined way to do new connections. But this is where we are, and so we're going to manage it and report quarterly to DEP.
Is Northampton County on the same thing? Do they have the same?
No, they're not part of our system,
Sorry
but I
about
don't know how they're managing new connections. Every municipality may have some different situations.
Yeah, they're all totally, every single system is totally unique. It's the challenge.
So we went through all that pretty quickly. I think the summary slide as we did it. And now we're getting started on the work, rolling up our sleeves on some of the implementation side of things. And wanted to just offer that presentation to the board and offer time for any questions or discussion.
Question, so we're reporting formally quarterly to DEP on the plan. How are the municipalities reporting to us on their project, on their progress?
I
Right,
have to ask them every quarter. They just give me a little couple sentences here.
they give you a little update to help, and then you put that into your report.
So the report moving forward is only focused on new connections and how we manage the connection management plan. That report that's due in October of 2027 will be a full compilation of all the I&I work happening throughout the system in all the municipalities. So that I&I subcommittee that we're going to have put together will be a good mechanism to make sure we're getting regular updates.
I could answer Ted's question just in general. So in the Bethlehem and Easton areas, basically, depending upon the size of the project, they submit what's called the planning module exemption mailer package. It still has a bunch of information about the project and approval letters from various municipalities, authorities, whatever. And then DEP will write back and say there's no planning required. If it's a bigger project, there's a component 3 or component 4 form you have to fill out. And a lot more information is required and submit that to DEP for approval, but there's still a DEP approval process.
Right.
Even the exemption process is still, can be a little onerous, even if it's for 2 houses. You know?
Not as bad as the whole
Right,
Oh.
right.
Well, congratulations to the team. I think this has been a long process. I think we finished one step. Now, the second step is how to work with the municipality here to recognize they have to pay for what they want to use. I think if we get them to understand that nothing is free, I think that would help a lot. Thank you again. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Phil, congratulations. Great job. Thank you. Okay, moving to the next items on the agenda, we have our monthly financial report. And short of yours.
Most certainly. We're gonna take a look at what we did or how we did in March and where we are March to date and where we are to forecast for the year. Looking on a summary basis for the month of March on the income side, you look down and you see that water, wastewater and city were all positive, so LCA was a positive as well. The good news is that all three funds as well were favorable to forecast, and therefore LCA is also favorable to forecast on the total business. Cash flow wise, we're positive on water, down a little bit on wastewater, and down a little bit in the city division. However, we had forecasted some of that, some of the negative numbers on them two funds. So on a comparative basis, we're favorable forecast across the board and also for the entire business. Year to date, water's positive, wastewater is just slightly deficit, and city division is pretty good at 6.7 or 8 million. So altogether, nice positive number for LCA. Again, all three funds are exhibiting favorableness to forecast with a large number on the city side. So cash flows, we're positive on water, positive on wastewater, a little bit negative on the city side. LCA is positive in total, and again, pretty much all three funds are favorable to forecast. We come into the year with a forecast, and basically what we try to start with is some type of monthly analysis to budget. And so for the first quarter, we're usually not changing the forecast unless we know something drastically staring at us. So there's really no variances to talk about until we do Q2. Just take a look at some of the year-to-date variances in suburban water. Income is $513,000 better, pretty much across the board with favorable in operating revenues, favorable in operating expenses as well, higher interest income, and actually interest expense was lower. You don't see that all the time. All of the categories are on the favorable side. So net cash aided by all the operating revenues and the lower expenses is favorable to forecast. Pretty much everything else is a small variance. So that's what's driving the $605,000 favorable cash flow variance on suburban water. Again, really no variance on a full year basis. We'll take a look at that in Q2. Just looking at some of the metrics, year-to-date debt service, we're 2.94. That's better than what we had budgeted for the year, better than our internal target. And it will come down a bit, but right now we're showing in a budget level. We'll see when we do Q2. Operating ratio, we're 1.30, which is better than budget, better than target. And same thing for full year. We'll be at a budget level. Cash on hand is almost 342 days. That's good compared to 180. And we think for the year to be down in the neighborhood of 228. Suburban wastewater, year to date, we are $443,000 favorable to forecast. You can see the operating revenues were down from where we thought they would be. We made up for that with lower operating expenses pretty much across the board. Again, interest income is a little bit higher than we projected, but interest expense kind of offset that being a little bit higher. Cash flows year to date, we're at $988,000 favorable, most of that coming from the lower operating expenses that you see in the graph above. Nothing to speak home in terms of debt service and financing or CapEx. And we have $350,000 worth of additional income from investing activity. Again, no variances full year. Metrics, debt service coverage, good, 3.06 versus 2.16 on the budget side, and better than our internal target. Full year, we'll kind of finish at budget right now. Year-to-date operating ratio, we had budgeted to be less than 1. We're a little better than that so far year to date. And for the full year, we think we'll be at 0.90. Days cash on hand, good. We're 248 against the 1. It'll come down some because that's the way we budgeted to be a little bit less coming into this year than 180. City division, income year to date, we have big change, big favorable variance in operating revenues driven mostly by higher project reimbursement than we thought we had. Operating expenses down to 444,000, make up for that in interest income, and interest expense is lower right now by 603. So I had a hefty variance on the income side of city division of $6.1 million. That's also parlaying out into cash flow favorableness as well. So you got $4.3 million coming from above in terms of cash from operations. Debt service down a little bit. CapEx is kind of right level with what we thought, and higher interest income is helping us as well. No variance on the full year side. So on the coverage ratio, 2.89, that's better than budget, better than target. It'll even out to budget it by the end of the year for now. Operating ratio 2.11 versus 1.95, and days cash on hand 700 days right now, and actually that's going to go up some. So we're going to need to look at what we do with some of that. Score sheet, all 3 funds are double digits in terms of score out of 14, so you perfect score for suburban water. 11 out of 14 for wastewater and 12 out of 14 for the city. Wastewater, we budgeted below, so you can actually, add another point there. So actually the scorecard, I think, was fairly good after the first quarter. Summary wise, 3 months on the book, we're better than forecast. Both net income and cash flows are good. Metrics are all in good shape. The scorecard is showing that. So right now our next chore is to take a look at the Q2 forecast, see if there's any of these year-to-date variances that are just timing variances, and find out what else we need to look at for the year. So.
And when you say your interest income is higher than anticipated, is that because you have more cash, or because you just are really good at investing for higher interest rate?
I wouldn't call it. There's just more cash sitting there, and actually, in all fairness, some of the rates have been favorable as compared to what we thought. So it's a combination. Yeah, I'm not an investment wizard, so.
What instruments do you put the?
It's mostly CDs that are carrying at some points almost 5% interest right now. So when we look at that on a
1 year?
Just for 1 year, yeah.
So do you use a particular bank or?
What's that?
Use a bank? A bank CD or?
Yeah, there's some other vehicles besides just bank CDs. And we use somebody that does a fairly good job of searching for higher rates on just CDs, so we don't do that, and to be honest with you, that becomes a little bit of a favorable number for us when we're looking at our numbers too, so.
I could just for you, VJ, at the end of in your packet, at the end of the report of the authority finances, there is also a listing of new CDs. We provide that every month so you can see what that looks like.
That's just blooming.
Yeah.
Questions? You expect the cash on hand for the city to grow?
Yeah, I actually think it's gonna grow based on some of the project reimbursement that we've seen. So I think we're gonna need to take a serious look when we do Q2 forecast of whether or not we should be parking some money with.
We got a lot of project for city, so.
Absolutely.
Rather than borrowing the money, I don't know, I just.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we need to do in Q2 is take a look and see what, I mean, because you shouldn't be borrowing money if you have a thousand discount.
That's my point.
And didn't we just borrow?
We borrowed 2 years ago,
Yeah,
so
and we haven't used.
this will be the last year of that borrow. So whether we need to do anything in the future depends on the nature of the projects. But obviously with that amount of cash on hand, that comes into play on a really favorable basis.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Question for Ed? Okay. Thank you, appreciate that. Moving on to our safety report and the brand new safety report that we have.
And they just have this critique, so I wasn't planning on putting.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, there's, to be honest with you, in the month of March, there wasn't a whole lot of, I'll call it incident activity, thank goodness. I mean, just looking at the report on the bottom, incidents by month, if you look at, you had 7 in January, 5 in February, and then just 1 in March, so that was good. In terms of vehicle incidents, 2, 5, and 1. So on a year-to-date basis, we have 21 total incidents. We have 13 employee-related incidents, 8 vehicle incidents, and looking at the top of the page, you see. So the last recordable was the 10th of February of this year. So we're adding up the days since last recordable. We're at 69 right now.
So what's our total number of reportables for this year so far?
Recordables, it would be 6. Out in that second row. So you have severity, that's right. Severity classification would be 6 recordables, 6 first aid, and 1 that we're still trying to determine what's going on. In terms of incidents by body part, you can see back is predominant. Upper body is by far the biggest percentage, and then head is 7%. In terms of incident breakdown by, I'll call it category, you have basically 4 from slips, trips, and falls. We were not helped by all the snow and cold weather. Equipment and mechanical is 3, 2 laceration and cuts, 3 that were related to work processes, procedures, and then 8 vehicle. So happy to say March was quiet.
We're looking for the year to be quiet, hopefully.
No, I'm kind of hoping that without some of the things that we faced with all of the, I'll call it the mess from winter affecting people, that we get a whole lot cleaner than we were in the first quarter.
Sure. Thank you. Going to the,
Amir,
yes.
sorry, on the safety report, because this is a new format that we're using. If any of the board members, now that you've kind of gotten a chance to see it a couple of times, if you have any feedback on it, certainly you can email me any feedback you have, if there's any questions to have about the format itself and what we're presenting. Brand new.
Go to system operations.
Thank you. In front of you, you should have the March 2026 operations report. We'll start off with water production. We were at 22.69 MGD, which is slightly below what we saw in February and January. If you recall, we've had up to 25 main breaks so far this year. So there was a lot of leaks all throughout the winter, mainly due to cold weather, temperatures, all that good stuff. The field service crew did a great job at fixing some of those leaks, and it's likely why we see a slight reduction there. Also with the Lehigh River, you'll also notice 2.83 MGD. We've been using the Lehigh River pretty often for different reasons so far this year. This one is mainly due to the amount of rain we had. We did have 5.73 inches of rain. We seem to switch over to the Lehigh River because of turbidity. The Little Lehigh jumps very high when we get rainfall events from a turbidity standpoint. The Lehigh River is not as hard to treat during those events, so if we need to keep producing, we typically switch over. Going down to wastewater, Klein's Island, we were at 35.76 MGD. Once again, from some of the discussions we had today about I&I, there's your answer of why we've increased to 35.76 MGD. We did have one bypass. That was at Heidelberg Heights back on March 6th. That was due to one of the rain events. It was 1.60 inches. So a pretty significant event. That's one of our first bypasses we've had at Heidelberg Heights in quite some time. We were pretty happy with how everything was going. Unfortunately, we did not make it through this storm event. But just note there were no permit exceedances during that. It was simply just the bypass event. And we will switch on over to the other compliance related matters. So I did note the Heidelberg Heights bypass. Moving a little bit further down, you'll notice 3 at Sand Spring. Those are all related to ammonia. There was an ammonia concentration limit exceedance, as well as a loading, and also total nitrogen. The total nitrogen calculation takes into account ammonia. So if you have high ammonia results, you're likely going to end up in a total nitrogen exceedance as well. We have discovered, we originally thought that due to the very cold temperatures that we were seeing late December into January, was our issue. We did some additional sampling back in, I'm gonna say, early February timeframe, where we do have a compound coming in, which is likely inhibiting the nitrification process. So QACs, quaternary ammonium compounds, basically a cleaning solution of some type.
Lysol.
Likely of, yeah, some. So we're currently trying to track down exactly where it's coming from. We've gone through quite a few sampling events. The system is not big by any means. It's a little frustrating to not be able to find where it's coming from yet. We have narrowed it down to a section of the collection system. Or at least I was very positive that it was likely coming from the elementary school, which is right on the outskirts of the collection system. We did collect a sample from there and got absolutely no hits. So whether or not it was a fluke event, or if it's not them, we did just collect another round of sampling. I believe it was early last week. Unfortunately, the testing, it's like 2 to 3 weeks to get the results back. So it's somewhat of a delayed process as far as tracking it down. I believe we're on the right path as far as finding it. I really hope that we have an answer the next time we meet. But that's the reasoning behind that so far.
Andrew, what are you testing for?
Quaternary ammonium compounds. So they're in different types of cleaning solutions that are pretty common. With it being such a small facility, it really doesn't take too much to cause an upset. The levels that we were seeing at the influent of the plant are relatively high. So now it's just the backtracking of exactly where it's coming from.
Does it make foam or anything associated with that too, or not?
Not at not at the plant. I will note that one of the techs that was out sampling, when they collected a sample, it was actually from a dentist office. She did note that it was a little foamy and it looked like there was some type of cleaning solution in it. I don't have the results from that sample yet to say it's coming from there, but should know, I'd say within a week and a half, hopefully.
How big's the system? How many?
From a gallon standpoint, it's about 35,000 gallons per day is what it's designed for, and we're typically right around that design capacity. So yeah, compared to Klein's Island or something like that, it's such a small facility, and yet it makes
You can do a
certain
door-to-door
problems.
inspection.
Yeah. Yes, it makes issues way more difficult. So.
Your mask, so.
And then the last one that I have noted on here is Wynwood Terrace. Those are both related to fecal coliform. It was really an operational thing where it just needed to be cleaned. And once again, when you have one high fecal coliform where it's above the detection limit, you get the greater than symbol on those results. So no matter how many samples you collect the rest of the month, your geometric mean is still going to carry that greater than symbol. So it just automatically throws you a flag as far as the violation goes. But that should be resolved and should be on a better schedule as far as cleaning goes.
Where are we with regard to the drought conditions and communications on that? I saw Josh Siegel the other week and he was talking about coordinating with us on some of the drought communications. I think the weather's been a little bit better the last couple of weeks, but still.
It has been. As far as groundwater levels, they have slightly rebounded. Same with the Little Lehigh Creek. Obviously, that's a very important source for us. Flows have been way higher than they have been over really almost the past year. We are still in drought conditions though. And do you want to take the rest of that question?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. We are hosting an industry advisory group meeting this week to meet with our large customers, to talk with them about the drought warning and the water conditions. With it being spring, a kind of a dry-ish spring, it hasn't been real wet yet. Going into the warm summer months, if things progress further, we could face more severe circumstances. So we're meeting with the industry group on Thursday, and the county administration and emergency management folks are going to attend as well and understand our situation and help us with communication and outreach on that. So.
Thank you, Andrew. Moving on, I think that was the last item we have. Staff comment.
I have just one brief one. I wanted to let the board be aware that 2 weeks ago, Andrew Moore, Chris Mon, and I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. for legislative event that the American Water Works Association puts together each year in the spring. We were able to visit 12 different legislative offices while we were in DC and talk to our legislators about infrastructure funding, PFAS liability, cybersecurity, and a host of other issues. So really appreciate the organization's support for us making the trip, and also just recognizing Andrew and Chris for putting themselves out there to help me with those outreach meetings. Thank you.
A question with the AWWA. I know a while back they were pushing to have like a no flush labels being put on pipes and other things that just clog everything up, in sewer systems. And is there any progress on that?
I haven't heard specifically on there's legislation around the labeling of flushable, so-called flushable wipes. But certainly that's part of our outreach program and AWWA's outreach program, that the wipes should not be flushed. So if there is legislation, do you have one?
I don't know if there is legislation, but I have noticed it on most packaging at the store nowadays. So I don't know, maybe it's another state that put something through and it's just carrying over everything.
Maybe California does it and everybody else.
Yeah,
besides
very well good.
There were a variety of lawsuits around that topic as well, so.
It's pretty catchy with the red circle with a cross with a toilet in the middle of it.
So one of the things that we were really very focused on is relates to infrastructure funding. And noting that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding, that was a huge boost in grant funding available for programs like our lead pipe replacement program. That funding stream sunsets this year, and it's not slated to be re-upped in the next budget cycle. So we really do need support at the federal level to ensure that those programs can be funded.
What is your comment?
No report, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any public comment?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Any board member comment? Okay. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Have a great week.
So